All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Wakakadash. I want to give double honor to my elder apostles and my elder bishop, a great millstone, who were well and teaching us the truth 100% securely. And I'd like to give a salutation to the men out there on the highways and byways pushing the truth throughout the four corners of the earth. And also, I'd like to give a salutation to the Akim and Akwak who are listening and studying to show ourselves approved. This is Brother Bayon from the Tulsa, Oklahoma, Hebrew Delight Camp, coming back to you with another quick lesson. And this is I think I'm going to title this lesson, why they changed it from the Tulsa race riot to a Tulsa massacre. Okay, and this is inspired by a conversation me and my pops had, my father, or Abba, Abba, which is Paleo Hebrew for father. And we had a conversation yesterday about, what happened in the story that he was told and the story that was passed down to him from his father, and other elders who actually experienced the Tulsa race riots and so on and so forth, and he was a mail carrier, okay? And so, a lot of times when you talk to your mailmen and stuff, they pretty much know people around the areas, and they deliver to mails and they conversate with them and all of that stuff and so on and so forth. So my dad was actually, one of the individuals that spoke with the lady that passed recently, because at the time when he spoke to her, she was 90 years old, okay? It was one of the, I'm not sure if it was, Salaki, I'll take that back. It was one of the, if it wasn't the one that just passed, it was a couple of more survivors before, okay? And she has told him the story about Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, the devil that they are, on how they pretty much attack men, women and children, okay? And as the scripture says in Ecclesiastes chapter 1 and 9, it says there's nothing new up under the sun. Okay, and so Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, showed in the scripture they are the basis of man. Okay, they're not like the men of war that like you think they are. Okay, and generally speaking, historically speaking, you will see that they always attack women and children. Okay, and this is a story that the conversation that me and my dad had recently, like yesterday, and we were talking about how it went from being called a Tulsa race riot, that was in the conversation, to a Tulsa massacre, okay, and then it went on to what really happened, and how Esau Edom, so-called white man, was jealous of the prosperity that we had in there right here on Black Wall Street, here in Tulsa. Okay, so I wanted to share this with Yasserala, this conversation, okay? But before I get into that, we get a couple of quick precepts, and it kind of give you a general idea of why we actually went through, the atrocity throughout America, aka Babylon the Great, from the Tulsa race riot to slavery and all of that, is because we forgot, the ways of our father, okay? We were supposed to keep the commandments of Yahweh Ba'asim Yahweh Shai, and along the way we forgot, to keep those commandments. We disobeyed the laws and statute commandments of Yahweh Ba'asim Yahweh Shai, and here we are in that state of, and here we are. These are the results of that, okay? And so, yeah, you got this, and the good news is, I can't forget that the good news is that we're coming back to our power. We're coming back to, claiming our throne that we once had. Okay, so we can't forget about that. So let's get start with Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 7, and it says, "Remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will sue thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee." Okay? And so this scripture is basically, we're supposed to acknowledge not only Yahweh Shem Yahushua, but we're supposed to hear the story. The story was supposed to be passed down from generation to generation of how our power, which is the Heavenly Father's name is Yahweh, and His only begotten Son's name is Yahushua. The stories of how He saved us out of Egypt, that was supposed to be passed down from generation to generation. Okay, so it's similar to what my father, my Abba, told me about the what really happened in the Tulsa race riot. Okay, why it got changed from Tulsa race riot here recently, to Tulsa Massacre. Okay, and the story that was passed down to him, he turned around and told me those stories. Okay, but I brought this precept out is because the way he told me the story, our power is the same. The way he passed those stories down to me, this is how it's supposed to be when we're supposed to hear about Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Okay, that's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be the Father passing those stories down of how the Heavenly Father saved us out of Egypt and so on and so forth. But the good news is when Yahweh Shem Yahushua deliver us out of this wicked place called America, aka Babylon the Great, we're going to continue those stories. Okay, so let's go and get Psalm 78, and we'll start at verse 3. Okay, and it says, well, now let's start at the top. All right, Psalm 78 and 1. It says, "Give ear, O my people, to my law, incline your ears to the words of my mouth. And I will open my mouth in a parable, and I will utter dark sayings of old, which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us. We will not hide them from their children, suing the generation to come, the praise of the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, and His strength, and His wonderful work that He have done. For He established a testimony in Jacob, and appointed a law in Israel, which He commanded our father, that they should make them known to their children, that the generations to come might know them, even the children which should be born, who should arise and declare them to their children, that they might set their hope in Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua, and not forget the work of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua, but keep His commandment, and might not be as their father, a stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation that set not their heart aright, and whose spirit was not steadfast with Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua." You see, and that's the reason why we are in this state now. We have this rebellious mindset as we speak. I was just actually listening to a video just right before I started this lesson. I was listening to a video with Elder Malazakba doing a video of this non-believer. Okay, we felt so bad to the point where we got a bunch of non-believers that don't believe in the Heavenly Father. So that's the result of not passing those stories down and keep telling our children to keep the laws and statute commandments of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Okay, let's go from there. We get Psalm 78. We did that. Judge chapter 2 and 10. And see right here at the title, it says, "Israel disobeyed the Lord." Okay, and so Judge 2 and 10, it says, "And also all generation," it said, "all that generation were gathered unto their fathers, and there arose another generation after them, which knew not the Lord Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua, nor yet the work which He had done for Israel." Okay, so that generations after that, they forgot, they forgot the hand that fed them. Okay, and so, that's pretty much reiterating their point. All right, and so let's get Job chapter 8 and verse 8. I don't know what just happened. Let's do that again. All right, Job chapter 8 and verse 8, and it says, "For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers." And it says, for we are but of yesterday, and know nothing, because our days upon earth are a shadow. Shall not they teach thee and tell thee in other words out of thy heart? Can the rust grow up without myrrh? Can the flag grow without water? You see? And so that is pretty much going back into the very precept. Even Yahweh Shai said this in John chapter 15. Let's get it real quick. John. And that was pretty much what Job was pretty much saying, is that you can't do nothing without the Heavenly Father. Okay? John chapter 15 and verse 4, and it says, abide in me and in you, as a branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide in the vine, no more can you except ye abide in me. You see, in verse 5, and he said, I am the vine, and ye are the branch. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth fruit. For without me, ye can do nothing. Okay? And so that pretty much answered that question in Job, in Job chapter 8 and verse 10. Okay? We can do nothing without the Heavenly Father. And that's why we're in this state now, because we're at nothing. Okay? But again, the gospel, the good news, and we're coming back into our heritage. Okay? So we go from there, and we'll read this proverb, and then we'll go ahead and go to the story or the conversation that me and my dad had about the reason why it was changed from Tulsa race riot to Tulsa Massacre. Okay? So this is Proverbs chapter 4 and verse 1. It says, hear ye, children, the instructions of a father, and attend to know understanding. Okay, this understanding is the laws and statute commandment, His word. Okay, you getting back to this word, get back into the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. All right. Well, verse 2, and it says, for I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law. For I was my father's son, tender and only beloved in the sight of my mother. He taught me also and said unto me, let thine heart retain my word, keep my commandments and live. Okay, so only, cause we're coming back into that heritage. We're trying to keep the commandment to the best of our ability. We know that we can't keep it perfectly, okay, but we are, keeping what we can. What's in our control, we're going to keep it. Okay, and then we're going to have faith in Yahweh Shah, who the world even calls Jesus Christ, that's going to come back and deliver us out of this wicked kingdom. All right, we look forward to that. Okay, so I said I was going to end it here, but let's get this Zephaniah, one of my favorite precepts, on how we're going to get delivered from this wicked kingdom, man. This wicked economic structure that people are mourning about, as it says in Proverbs 29 and 2, what it says, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. Okay, and basically all of the people are mourning, and that's to show you who the wicked is. The wicked are controlling America, aka Babylon the Great. Okay, so this is Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 8, and it said, therefore wait ye upon me, says the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nation, that I may assemble the kingdom, to pour upon them my indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. Okay? And that is what we're looking forward to. Okay? We no longer, acknowledge this place, as an actual country. Okay? Because the Lord is about to destroy this place. All right, this place is about to be desolate. Once the Lord get done with America, aka Babylon the Great, there's not going to be any habitation on this whole land. That's what we look forward to. Because once we see that, that's when a kingdom of righteousness is going to take place, and it's going to rule, and it's going to rule forever. All right? So Esau, Edom, so-called white man, is being exposed on all sides, and they're going to continue being exposed. And this is why, all right? All of the stories that we hear, the story that you hear is pretty much Jake is crying out. Okay, they're crying out to the Lord. As it says in Jeremiah, many other scriptures where it says Babylon's judgment have reached up into heaven. Okay, so now all of these stories have been brought to the forefront, but of course they're going to control their media and change things up. Hence the reason why they changed it from Tulsa Race Riot to Tulsa Massacre. All right, and then, of course you got them lawyers behind it trying to get reparation, all right, knowing that these devils is not going to pay that reparation. Okay, so that's pretty much the point. I'm going to get ready to play this story. Play this conversation. Lord willing, this will be edifying. And with that, I'm going to give our praise and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Wakakadash. I want to give double honor to my elder apostles and my elder bishop, a great millstone who were well and teaching us the truth 100% securely. Shalom, shalom, Kwam Yasharala, shalom. You say your dad was 19 years old?
Yeah, my dad was born in 1902.
1902. Okay.
He was 19 years old. And he was catching the freight train because he was on his own. He said his stepdad kicked him out of the house when he was 16.
Mm-hmm.
So he was on his own for 3 years. He didn't have no home. He was just surviving in any kind of way he could. And so he was jumping the freight train, riding from state to state, and get off the freight train and see can he find work. And he said he heard, man, he was from Texas somewhere. He was lived down there in Texas somewhere. And he heard that it was jobs here in Tulsa because of the Black Wall Street.
Right.
And so he had jumped on a freight train, and when he came through Tulsa, he jumped off the freight train. And he came here to find work. And he said he looked up when he jumped off that freight train, and he turned around, and about 3 blocks behind him was about 18 white guys chasing him. And he said he took off running. And he said just so happens he was able to crawl up into this chicken coop. And he hid in that chicken coop because he said it was getting late at night and they didn't see him in there. And so he hid in that chicken coop until early that morning. He jumped back on that freight train. But he said that they kicked that chicken coop. He said he almost shit on himself. He said, God damn. But he said as soon as early morning came, 6 o'clock that morning, the sun came out, he got out of there and he got back on that freight train and got the hell out of Tulsa.
So this is after the fact that the National Guard came in,
it's after the fact.
Arrested all the black men, and so basically before that, it was a riot.
Before that, they was coming down. See, Ronnie tells it a different way. He's telling it the way the white folks tell it.
Right.
The white folks try to tell this lie about that they had came down, they had caught the black guy and arrested him. And they took him down to City Hall. They took him down to the sheriff department or wherever they were. City Hall. The
black guy that you said that was with that white lady that they were basically dating at the nightclub, at the bar in the
See, the black guy was a shoe shiner, right? And what happened is that white folks, being jealous of all the money that was being made in the black community,
right,
they wanted to make some of that money. And so the black women wanted to go to the dress stores in the white community.
Right.
Because black women always want to be different.
Yeah, of course.
They don't want to, they want to stand out. They want to, they don't want to buy their clothes. They don't want to walk down the street, somebody else got the same dress on.
Right.
But back then you had to make your own dress. You get the patterns for the dress. And you had to buy the material and you had to sew it yourself. So black women sewed their own clothes. So they want to go to the white stores and pick out the fabric, pick out some of their fabric, get some of their patterns.
So that was kind of like the first seed of pretty much the white nation knowing that these black folks over here got money.
Well, that and plus the fact that they'd already known about the clubs and they knew about the stores and they knew about the prosperity that was actually going on. They already knew about it,
right?
But they didn't like it, but it wasn't nothing they could do about it at the time. They had to come up with a reason to come destroy it, which is the reason that they used this black guy raping. Come on. Now, what happened is that he was a shoe shiner. And since they was letting black folks come to the stores, but they told them they had to come in the back door.
Right.
So these black women was coming down to the stores, and they was going into the black, and they had to come through the back door. Now, this old black lady told me this part.
Mm-hmm.
She said if it hadn't been for black women wanting to go to the white stores to get dresses, the whole thing probably would have never happened.
Mm.
See, so what happened is that they opened up the white stores, but they made these black folks come through the back door. And so since they was letting black folks come downtown, they let some of the shoe shiners set up shop down there. And so this shoe shine boy, this guy was a shoe shine boy.
Mm-hmm.
And him and this other guy had a shoe shine set up outside down the street from this store, this department store.
Right.
And the girl operated the elevator.
Uh-huh.
And that was back during the time where you had the two doors and they had to be opened manually.
Right.
They didn't have the automatic shut doors. A black man created that.
Okay.
And so she was the operator, the elevator operator. She opened the doors. And so they told these black folks that had this shoe shine shop that they can come through the back door and go upstairs to the restroom. Because they had to have somewhere to use the restroom. And they agreed to let them do this. And so he actually went through the back door and went in the elevator. And he got on the elevator and saw her.
And saw that, and so the story that I got was that this is the lady that he already knew from the club, right?
Because she was. See, that's the thing about it. White women want to come to the black clubs.
Right.
Now that lets you know what they're looking for. They're looking for some black dick. They ain't looking for them white boys. They don't want no tongue.
Right.
So they want to come to the black clubs, and the white men hated that shit. You know, they didn't like that, and so the white women was coming to the clubs. And this is why this how this black guy met this white girl. Now they might have a little freaky encounter because they had hotels down there too. They might have had some kind of little freaky encounter, but when she got around her white folks, she didn't want them to know that she messed with a black man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they'd hang white folks too for dating white men.
Right.
Dating black men.
Yeah. That made me think about that book that I read called Sundown Town, James W. Lowen. They changed it from the edition. They're a different edition, but the original, it had it actually said that a white woman, they hung a white woman for having a black baby. They treated her just like the black women where they hung them and they cut the baby down. They did white women like that too.
Right. See, because that's how vicious and evil they are.
Right.
But anyway, what happened is that instead of this black guy saying, okay, I'm going to go up the stairs, he gets on the elevator with this girl and she gets all embarrassed because she's on the elevator with him by herself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my thing is that, okay, wait a minute now. You operate the elevator. The elevator cannot go up and down unless you open and close the door.
Right.
So why did you get out of the elevator instead of staying in there with this black man?
Mm-hmm.
See, and so when my understanding, when he had already used the restroom, and so maybe he took the stairs up, but when he seen her in this elevator, he jumped on the elevator. You see, and when he got down to the bottom floor, she came out screaming that she got raped.
Right.
How you gonna rape somebody on the elevator? And it was only
that you have to manually operate. Right.
And it was the store was only a 2-story store.
Right.
2 stories. And how you gonna rape somebody in that short length of time? But white folks didn't care. They wanted an excuse to tear up Black Wall Street.
Right.
Because them black folks was making more money and more prosperous than they were. And that's why they started letting the black folks come to the stores, because they wanted some of that money. See, the black dress shops, the dressmakers and the people that were selling the dresses, they were millionaires. They were selling to thousands and thousands of black women coming through there buying these dresses. And so they found that out and they wanted some of that money. And so the old black lady on my route told me that. And she was 90-something years old when she said that's the reason that the whole thing started, because these black women want to go shopping downtown. And she told me that after they had arrested all the black men, that's when they came in looting and raping and killing people. And she said her mother and her 2 sisters, the only way they survived, they crawled up under the house. She said they heard them coming. One afternoon they heard the mob coming down the street. And so mom grabbed them and they all went out in the back and they crawled up under the house. And they could hear them looting all through the house. And they stayed up under there until that next morning, and then they left. And she said that's how they survived.
And that was after the National Guard took all the black men and threw them pretty much where it's known as the Driller Stadium to this day. No, not the Driller Stadium, but the fairgrounds. The fairground, out there on 21st Street.
Right. They put them in a warehouse out there.
Okay, yeah.
And they kept them there until after the National Guard pulled out, and they came in and looted and burned everything, and then they took them out and prosecuted them right there in front of City Hall and hung about 12 of them. They hung them right in front of City Hall.
Now it makes sense too, because I think I know the exact building where they had all the because that building still up until this day.
The City Hall building, yeah, it's still there.
Yeah, so that same building is what they be having them gun shows at. And sometimes they be having
you talking about
out on the fairground.
Oh no, that ain't where they hung them at, but that might be where the warehouse was.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I don't know if that was the building that the warehouse was at. I can't remember. That might have been because they probably didn't have that many buildings out there at that time.
Right.
That might have been where they had.
Yeah. That area it's a building where they be having those racetrack, them horse racetrack.
Yeah, I know.
And then it's another building where they have the gun shows at.
Yeah.
And that's where I think they held them all at right there.
Right, they held them out there, and then because this guy across the street, his name is Blades. His brother used to be a police officer here. He got a house right down here. If you go the next street over, and you go all the way to the end of that street, you make a left.
Right off the corner of Virgin.
No, it's not on Virgin. It's more on.
It ain't on. I ain't talking about on Virgin, but right before you get to Virgin, when you come out the street over here.
Well, no, if the next street over is called Midland.
Right. Okay.
Next street over.
Yeah. That where the train track is.
Okay. Now, if you get on that street with Midland and you go down to the stop sign.
Right. Going north.
Going north.
Yeah.
And then you make a right at the stop sign. The first house on the left hand side.
Okay.
Was Marvin Blades' house.
Okay.
And when they had a different owner up here at McDonald's, because I think that black guy that owns it up there now, I don't know if he was the owner at the time or not. I don't think he was, because he's an asshole. He don't hire nothing but Hispanics in there now.
Right.
And I think they say his wife is Hispanic. So whoever had that McDonald's sold it to him. But the guy that had it before him let Marvin Blades put the pictures of all these lynchings that took place in 1921. And I went in there one time to eat lunch because I was working in this area, and I seen all the pictures up there. And Marvin Blades was up there, and he was telling everybody about the pictures. And that's what he said, that these are the lynchings that they had after the 1921 riot. And he's the one that actually told me about how they had the black folks, the National Guard had put the black folks in this warehouse. That's when I found that part out.
Right.
But see, what I'm saying is that they were actually fighting back. It wasn't like Rosewood. Rosewood, they were talking about, well, it's gonna blow over. We just need to wait it out. It's gonna blow over. No, if you weren't gonna fight back, you should have got your ass out of Dodge right then.
Right.
See, because if you ever see the end of Rosewood?
Yeah, I did when they got on that train.
Yeah, but it was more black guys running out of the woods.
Right. Yeah.
But the train guy wouldn't let them on.
Right.
Because he was saying that if I let these black folks on, they'll burn my train down.
Right.
But he was letting the women and the children on, but he wouldn't let the men on. You see, and what's the name? What's the black guy? Ben Raines and Don Cheetah.
Yeah.
They were on the train, but they had to get off. They had to get off because he wouldn't let them stay on the train.
Right, yeah. I do remember that.
And those are the only two that survived that whole thing. You see, but the other black men, the ones that wanted to wait it out, they were hiding in the woods trying to catch the train.
Right, and they was trying to run, and, Don Cheeto, and they had horses at the time, so they were prepared.
Yeah. But see, and then Don Cheeto, he survived because they carried his body out under his mama, because his mama was in that casket. Yeah. And he hid up under his mama.
Right, yeah.
And they were talking about, God damn, this fat, she bored this woman's heavy. Don Cheeto was in that too.
Yeah, I remember that.
But what I'm saying is that the black folks here, they fought back. When I heard the story, the first time I heard the story, I heard that the black guy, when the girl jumped out of that elevator and screamed rape, the black guy took off running out of the store because the store that he was at was on 4th and Maine or somewhere in there, because I think it was that Crest's building. I remember that store. And he ran all the way down 4th Street, all the way down to Archer, and then all the way down to Greenwood, all the way down Greenwood. And he hid down off in there somewhere. Well, about 2 hours later, they gathered all the way up at City Hall and talking about, by God, that nigger, we gonna go get him. You know, he done raped this white woman, you know. And my understanding, and I heard this about 3 years ago, that Susan Savage's, the ex-mayor of Tulsa, her grandfather was the sheriff.
Mm.
And so the sheriff decided, instead of him saying, okay, you guys need to go home and let me handle this, he gonna gather up about 300 white guys. All these white guys come from wherever they came from, right here in Tulsa. And they gonna wash down off of Archer and Greenwood. They gonna wash right down in the middle of Greenwood. And
right in the heart of all the black
heart of all them black folks.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it was still booming at the time.
Right.
You had 800 or 900 businesses, and that meant 4,000 or 5,000 shoppers all the way through there. And they gonna come right down the heart, bold as if, you know, we ain't scared of you niggas. We want that man. We want that nigger. Where is he at? We gonna hang. And then one of them talking, we gonna hang that nigga right here, you know. And so them people come out of them shops, and they say, no, you ain't gonna do that down here. You ain't nobody down here. So one thing led to another, and a big fight broke out. Now, according to Ronnie, he said that never happened. But this is how I heard the story.
Right.
You know, and of course now the white folks had their guns and this, that, and the other. But you surrounded by 5,000 black people. You, in other words, actually,
so with 300 whites, and they all had guns by black that had bats and
sticks and knives.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, of course, some of them did have some guns.
Right,
Not all
of course.
Of them didn't have guns.
So, because you got to think about some of them that was in the army that was veterans.
World War I.
Yeah, right.
And so, in my understanding, back then they let you take your gun home.
Right.
Or some more shit. But anyway, what my understanding is that it was about 300 white guys against about 275 black guys. That's how many met them right there where they were. And then they still surrounded by thousands of other black people standing around watching the whole thing. And next thing you know, the fight broke out. And my understanding is that when they left running back downtown, it was only about 125 of them.
Right. So more than half of them got killed.
More than half of them got killed.
Almost like that Mississippi riot when that black security guard got jumped by them white guys. And
yeah.
It's almost similar to that.
It was like that. Them white guys jumping in the water and shit.
Black dude jumped and swam to the fight.
Yeah. But anyway, come on now. It was about 8 black guys gonna jump on that security guard.
Right.
You know. But anyway, and then what happened, they say that, they used to show it, they should show a documentary of it back in the the mid-70s, because I remember seeing this when I was still in high school. It was the early 70s. I seen a documentary of the riot, and they showed this big old truck. They used to have these big old trucks that were like, they're bigger than those trucks. They're bigger than the average truck, but they're not a semi-truck. They look like food trucks or they look like UPS trucks, but they didn't have the
they were kind of open. They had like the woods on the side.
Yeah. They had them trucks, but then they had a big old sides on them because they used to sell watermelons out of those trucks.
Right.
And they used to ride through. And so they were riding through picking up the bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, a white man looks just like a black man after 3 days.
Right.
See, because his body starts to deteriorate and his skin starts to turn black.
Well, that's why they be having funerals so fast. Right.
They had a funeral within 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they was picking up them bodies and throwing them on this truck, they looked like they was black folks. Mm. Because they was black white men too, because they had deteriorated. And this is a black and white show that I was watching.
Right.
And they were trying to imply that these were black guys that they thrown on that truck. No, them was white folks too.
Mm-hmm.
And so my understanding is that the next day they came back again. But see, by then, people from Okmulgee and people from Muskogee and people from Bristow and all these white folks from these rural areas started to accumulate here in Tulsa.
You mean your Muskogee? You mean black?
White folks.
They were from Muskogee and Bristow and all of that?
Yeah, it's a lot of white folks down in those rural areas.
I could have sworn, because when I was coming up in school, they said these Muskogee, Bristow, and all of them were all black town.
No, Muskogee, the only part of black is Slick, Oklahoma's right outside.
Right, Slick, yeah, okay,
and that was
yeah.
mostly a black town.
Right.
But then you got Claremore.
Uh-huh.
You got a small population of black folks in Claremore.
Okay.
And then you got all these other little surrounding places like Sand Springs. You had a real small community of black folks in Sand Springs.
Beggs, Oklahoma.
Beggs, Oklahoma,
Okay,
all this
yeah.
kind of stuff. And so the white folks, the black folks in those communities really stayed out of it for the most part. But then some of them they used to come here to shop.
Right.
But when this whole thing broke out, they kind of stayed in their homes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the white folks gathered themselves up because they wanted to come fight. They wanted to come kill them some niggers.
Right.
And so they say the next day, they met them up right there where on Archer, where the baseball diamond is now.
Right, the Driller Stadium is.
Driller Stadium is.
Right.
That's where they met up at. And they said the next day it was about 400 white guys against about 300 black guys. And the black guys were prepared too. And they met them right there. They heard them coming. And so they went down, they gathered themselves and went off Greenwood and started marching west on Archer. And they met up with them right there in front of where the U-Haul is right now.
Mm.
And my understanding is, and when the white folks took off running, it was only about 200 of them that took off running. The rest of them was laid dead in the street. Now this is how I heard the story.
Yeah, and that was a true riot. That was a Tulsa. That's why it was called the Tulsa Race Riot.
It was called the Tulsa Race Riot for 100 years.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, they claimed that they felt like if they changed the narrative, they could possibly get reparations.
Yeah. That was the people that's working the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they changed it from a riot to a massacre, they could actually. But see, the last case they had, they denied them reparations again.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't gonna never. Them white folks ain't giving them jack for that. You see, and so my thing was this. This is what I always thought of it, but then now all of a sudden they saying that it was a black bank. But all this time I've been thinking they had the money down in the white banks.
Right.
But so they say they had a black bank.
Yeah, but it wouldn't make sense for them, because if they had a black bank, that means the blacks will operate and control the bank.
That's what they did. But see, most banks, if you have a license to be a bank, you have to report
to the IRS.
You have to report to whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
See, because you have to have a certain amount of balance in your bank.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if not, then your bank fails.
Right.
And so they have to report that, and then they have to give them detailed information about the accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Every bank does that.
Right.
See, if you got $1,000 in your account, IRS knows that you got $1,000 in your account,
mm-hmm.
and they monitoring your account. And if you all of a sudden come up with $10,000, IRS may audit you to find out where you got that money from.
Right.
And so now I'm thinking that it's quite possible that the people that owned the bank took that money out of that bank and got out of Dodge. And when they came back, see, because they came back 10 years later and rebuilt their homes. And so I'm thinking now that they came back to rebuild their homes, the person that owned that bank came back and brought that money back.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm thinking, where did they get the money to rebuild their homes?
Yeah.
And the ironic part about it, the city of Tulsa passed a ordinance, meaning a local city law,
mm-hmm.
said that anybody that was involved in the race riot could not come back and rebuild their homes.
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember seeing articles about that too.
And B.C. Franklin, remember the park used to be down there on Virgin?
Yeah. Still there to this day.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not there. They tore it down.
Well, the park still there. We talking about the building. Yeah, I remember that building. Yeah, but the park that's still there.
Okay, well they call it B.C. Franklin, but the building ain't there no more.
Okay, right.
Anyway, B.C. Franklin was the lawyer that went to the Oklahoma Supreme Court and fought against that ordinance, and the Supreme Court ruled in their favor and let them black folks rebuild their homes. See, Black Wall Street had rebuilt itself, and it didn't get torn down until they came in with this the road. They ran that expressway through there.
Eminent domain.
Right. They started buying up the land.
Right.
See, because when I started at the post office, that expressway wasn't coming through there, and there was all kind of black businesses down off in there. Matter of fact, when I was going to high school, a friend of mine's parents owned a grocery store down there right on the corner on Marshall and Greenwood. You see, and there was a whole lot of black businesses down there. It was theaters and pool halls and all kind of stuff. We used to go down there all the time.
We talking about the 70s.
Yeah.
Early.
No, this is the 60s.
Still the 60s.
60s and early 70s. Yeah.
Early 60s, early 70s. Okay.
Urban renewal didn't come through until late 80s. That's when that came through. Because when I started at the post office in the early 80s, I used to deliver mail down there. That was one of the first routes that I carried by myself. And it was this guy that owned the house over there where you are. His name was Elihu Haley. That was his route.
Oh, okay.
But he got it. When I started, he was just retiring. No, he had bid on another route, and this guy named Fly had that route, and so I carried that route, and it was still pool halls and theaters and hotels and all kind of stuff down there. Matter of fact, it was a hotel, you know, down there where the university is, where that park is, right by the university.
OSU.
Okay, if you go past where the Langston building is now.
Yeah.
Okay, across the street from the Langston building, that parking lot right there. It used to be a hotel right there. And gangsters. It was this gangster called Pretty Boy Floyd.
Yeah, I remember him.
He used to hang out. He used to rob stores, and he used to come to Tulsa and hang out at that hotel.
Oh,
because he was in
okay.
the black community, and wasn't nobody looking for him right there.
Pretty Boy Floyd, huh?
Yeah. And so he would take all that money, and he would buy him some plywood, and he would tear the wall out in that hotel room, and he put all that money behind that plywood.
So basically the parking lot where they be having all the
events and stuff like that.
Yeah, Juneteenth and all of that. That same parking lot, that's where the hotel was at.
Hotel right there.
Okay.
And when they tore that hotel down, they went in and gutted it all out, and they left the sheetrock and everything. After they took all they unhooked all the electricity from it, and they unhooked the water pipes. You know how they do when they tear the building down. They gutted it all out. And they took they had this big old boulder that swung like that.
Right.
And they took that boulder and they hit that building, and money flew everywhere. And black folks was all through there, and the white man was telling me, "Leave that alone, don't bother that money." You know, shit, black folks tearing that money out. You better get out of here. Because Ronnie would say that him and a friend of his was down there. He said this is when he was about 12 years old. Because this is in the early 60s that happened. And because if he was 12, this had to be around about, because Ronnie's about 4 years older than me. And so, I was 12 years old and 64. No, 65. And so if Ronnie was 12 and he's 4 years old and I was.
So we talking 61 here.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it was about early 60, 61.
Yeah.
And, but all that money that Pretty Boy Floyd was having behind the sheetrock was all off in there. Because, they killed Pretty Boy Floyd. So
yeah.
He never came back and got the money.
Right.
But, like I say, they rebuilt it. They rebuilt Greenwood. into urban renewal, and the expressways took it from them. And what happened is that a friend of mine's family had a grocery store right down there on the corner of Marshall and Greenwood, and
right there where the creek is, right there where where the churches is, and
well, actually, you know where Marshall and them live at?
yeah.
Across the street from where Marshall and them live at, it was a grocery store right there.
And nothing but houses over there now.
Right, yeah, that's before them houses on the west side. I mean, on the east side, that wasn't none of that there.
Right. Okay.
There was some houses over there, but it wasn't like it is now.
Right.
And so it's a sad story because
how long that creek been there then? The whole creek that be running through
over there in front of Marshall House?
Yeah.
They built that after '84 when they had that flood. When it flooded over here on the north side in '84.
Okay.
That's before you was born.
Yeah.
And Zadie was staying over there on Garrison, and it flooded on Mohawk and Peoria. And this lady I work with named Darlene Anderson, her husband was an ex-football player for the Dallas Cowboys. And he was coming from a club over there on 36th Street, across the street from the house over there. And he was going down Mohawk, and it flooded right there on, because they got one of those water ditches right there in that area.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
And it was some black girls that tried to drive through that water. And their car stalled, and their car started floating like a boat. And they was about to get drowned, and so he gets out of the car, and he goes over there and pick up them two girls and save them. Now he a hero, right? At least he thought he was, because he was a bouncer. He was a bouncer at some clubs and stuff, but he was okay. He wasn't like most bouncers, assholes, but he was okay. But anyway, he tried that again down in Eufaula somewhere, down where he was fishing somewhere, and these two white boys was drowning in his pool. And he jumped off in the water and went and saved them white boys, but he got so tired that he drowned. But anyway, it was sad because this guy that I work with, his family owned a grocery store. Now they were so anxious because that was one of the only, it was about 2 grocery stores down there at the time. You see, matter of fact, it used to be a grocery store right next to the post office on Apache. You know where that church is?
Yeah.
There used to be a warehouse market. But anyway, there was only a few places where black folks could get groceries at, and they had a grocery store down there. And so this guy, their last name was Peavy, and I guess they were just money hungry. They were just working all the time in that grocery store. Now, my thing is that when he would get out of school, he'd go down to the grocery store, instead of him putting him to work, stacking, bagging groceries or stacking the shelves or doing something, they would give him a wad of money and tell him to go buy himself something, go shopping and go, and at the time it wasn't nothing but Southland. You know where a promenade is?
Right.
That east side or that south side of, what is that, 41st?
Yeah.
Wasn't none of that over there. Over there where J.C. Penney's and Dillard's and all that is.
Right.
That wasn't over there. It was
so it was all empty, flat, or what?
I don't know. I think it was some buildings over there, but it wasn't no shopping center.
Okay.
The only shopping center was on the north side.
Okay. Where the Reese's is today, not Reese's.
Reese's, yeah.
That is Reese's over there.
Barnes and Nobles and all that. That was one big shopping area, and they had downstairs floors and stuff. It was just one big whole shopping area. All of it was a big building together. It wasn't separated the way it is now. And that's where you would go and shop. And so him and this one guy that I know, both of them went to school, both of them, they would take that money and they'd go shopping down there. And they'd buy clothes. And, he'd come to school, man, he'd shop all the time, got new clothes on all the time. Well, apparently, after buying as many clothes as he wanted, he got bored with that. So he started buying drugs all the time. So he started buying marijuana. He had.
Yeah, and then this was the time when the drugs started first hitting the market too, huh?
Well, it's the time when most white boys had the hard shit. Black folks, all they was smoking at the time was marijuana.
Okay.
But this is when the hippie era started.
Gotcha.
And black and white boys had Quaaludes and amphetamines, and they was experimenting with all kind of crazy shit. And speed.
Right.
That speed would fry your damn brain. Trust me on that shit. Them white boys was wired up, and so he started buying marijuana. And of course, back then, you can get a plastic bag full of marijuana about like that for $10.
It's almost like a Ziploc bag, a whole Ziploc bag.
A whole Ziploc bag. A Ziploc bag is about like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about like, that long. But at the bottom of it, you get that much weed
right.
for $10.
Right.
So he was smoking up, and then he got tired. He got bored with smoking weed. And so he started doing the hard shit. Started doing skag and shooting up and all this other bullshit. Next thing you know, that boy, he was like a zombie. That shit fried his damn brain. He was like a zombie. All because his mom and them was indulging him, giving him money all the time, and so he could buy this kind of shit.
Not making him, not letting him know what hard work was about.
Not making him work for what he got.
Yeah.
And that boy was so wired up. I tell you, we'd be in the hallway after lunch, because we get, I don't know, we got an hour lunch at 30. No, we got an hour lunch. This is in high school. We get an hour lunch, because I remember that shit. Because when I was in high school, my last year, all I needed was 4 credits. So I took a 3-hour woodshop class, which gave me 3 credits. And then all I had to do was take an English class. And so I would go on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would have an English class on the 2 days a week. But on the rest of the days, I would get out of school, because I had to be there, had to be in that woodshop class at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was staying way out on 56 in Cincinnati. If I missed that first bus, I'd be late every damn day. So I had to jump up and make sure I got that first bus. But anyway, from 8 to 11, at 11 o'clock, I was out of class. I was out of school. I got out of school at 11 o'clock every day, except for Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so, but on Tuesdays, at 11 o'clock, I would get out, and then I wouldn't have to go back to class until 12 o'clock. So that's why I know we was getting an hour lunch break. It wasn't no 30 minutes, no, we getting an hour lunch break. But anyway, I know one time we were standing in the hall. We were all just kicking it in the hallway, and the bell rang for us to go to class. And he was standing there with us. And he was standing there. This is the wall right here. He's standing there like this. The bell rang everything. He just standing there looking at the wall. Them drugs had tore his ass up. And then the dean of boys, they had to come get him and take him to class. And didn't make it so bad. After we graduated, his parents wasn't indulging him that much anymore. And so he came off of it a little bit, but he was hooked. And so he started stealing stuff out of his parents' house. And so they put him out. And when I started for the post office in 1980, he was walking down the street homeless because his parents put him out of the house. But I'm saying, this shit is all your fault in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know the history of this boy. They indulged this boy to be that way. Gave him all that money for standing around. He ain't had nothing to do. And so what do you think he was going to do with all that money? He was a kid. 17, 18-year-old kid. What you think he's going to do with a whole wad of money? But I'm just saying, that was the second time that they rebuilt Black Wall Street. After that started in 1930, 31.
Right.
They rebuilt it. And it lasted until 1980. They lasted almost to 1989. because I remember all that's down there on Greenwood now, and even over there on Lansing where the MC is and where Moten's is now on Lansing.
You said the Moten?
Well, you know, okay, Greenwood is, you know what Greenwood is?
Yeah. I know.
Greenwood is right there.
Uh-huh.
If you go over, you know where Sweet Lisa's used to be?
Right. Pine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Lansing.
Oh, yeah. Well, that Lansing. Okay, yeah,
If
okay.
you go make that right, black folks had businesses all over in there too.
Got you.
But right now, that's where MC is.
Right.
And Moten's, the old, well, you know, this used to be Moten's up the street here.
Yeah, I knew. I remember Moten.
The new Moten's is over there on Lansing.
Yeah.
And then they got the food bank over there too. They bought their land up and built a whole bunch of other stuff over there.
Mm-hmm.
You see, and so I'm just saying, I mean, all that was still there in '89, because I remember. I mean, none of that was there in the '80s, because I used to live over that route. There wasn't none of that over there.
Right.
It was the same Greenwood that it had always been. But then when they came in with urban renewal and ran that expressway through there, they did that shit on purpose so they can destroy them businesses down off in there.
Right. And that way nobody would be able to get no job then.
Well, you can't open no businesses because you don't have the facilities.
Gotcha.
And then the last thing they did is they used eminent domain on Peoria, because there used to be a lot of black businesses between Pine and Mohawk on Peoria. Churches and that Farley's Cleaners used to be down there on Apache.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they widened that street and bought up all that.
Right.
So they did everything they could to destroy the black community.